So, a very good evening to everyone. Welcome to today's midweek edition of our daily investor and developer support webinars, where I'll be talking to Stuart. Now, Stuart is on a journey to create himself an income from building a HMO portfolio, and he's doing it in a way that the plan is that every property that he buys, he refurbishes, he gets his money back out, or most of his money back out, which gives him more income every month, and he's just building up his income. So, Stuart, very good evening to you. Would you like to start off sharing off a little bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Glenn, and good evening, everybody. I'm I was a finance director, managing director in corporate world for more years than I care to think. A couple of years ago now, I decided I wanted to basically go and make some money for myself, other than making money for everybody else, and had a look around at a few things, and started my property journey a couple of years ago now. And these days I'm primarily doing property, but from time to time I might do some interim work, or I might and also help out and mentor one or two people myself. But primarily, as you said, looking to build cash flow to replace what was a very good corporate salary.
And now you've been great in the past, and you've come and done a couple of webinars with us prior, which was mainly all about the lockdown and how that was affecting everybody. That's pretty much almost, there isn't any issues in moving forward now that you're finding, is there?
To be honest, it's not in a straightforward purchase, but the more sophisticated that you make things, the more opportunities that you have. So I've got one or two things that I'm trying to resolve at the moment, which no doubt we will find a way to navigate through. I think the last time we spoke, I was fighting the COVID situation in terms of getting a conversion completed.
I know you were going mental and were very active on our mentee WhatsApp group trying to get plaster.
Oh, absolutely. I kid you not, I was one of those people that was monitoring the Wix website, all the building suppliers are of course available, trying to get some plaster, and there was some that did come into our store for a 7 a.m. start, and I got there at 5:30 and I was already number 40 in the queue. Fortunately, I got the 5 bags I needed, so we actually got the plastering done. And we're now on the home stretch of. I'm hoping when the builder talks to me tonight that we're on the final stages of the last bit of painting. So that should be coming to fruition shortly.
Okay, so this year started off set targets. You had a target to buy quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter to 4, quarter 2, 4, and along came our lockdown and kind of messed it up. What was the plan, and what have you managed to achieve, and what do you think you're going to get done by the end of the year? Yeah,
so you're dead right. The plan was to buy properties every quarter. And clearly in quarter 2 we had a further 2 properties scheduled to be purchased, and this one I've just mentioned to be finished.
So what was the original schedule for the year prior to lockdown? What had you planned on buying in total?
I wanted to get to 10 by the end of the year. That was my goal. So that would have meant purchasing, I think would have been 6 more purchased and getting 8 up and running in that period of time. And we've certainly got We've got 5 up and running now that are all let. We've got the 6th one that's going through conversion at the moment. I'm really trying hard at the moment to complete property 7 and 8. They're both secured. We're just navigating finance and various other issues. And I've got in the wings number 9. I did have a number 10 actually last week, but I got outbid on the deal, so I still aim to get to 10 by the end of the year, and with a fair wind I'm sure we'll get there.
Okay, well, I'm going to be asking anyone if they've got any questions to ask about how you found your journey. Now, you aren't actually doing no money down, you're doing no money left in strategy. Can you just give us an overview, and can you really buy a property and end up with more money than you started and an income?
Yes, you can, and I have done that, and I think you mentioned at the start of the call, not all deals you will pull money out. You might leave some in, but it's absolutely possible. And the approach there for me is, and it's not rocket science, to be honest. It's about, for me, buying at the right price. It's about buying something that one can add some value to. And it's about then getting the works done, raising the value up such that then ultimately when you refinance it, you have that opportunity to pull most or all of your money out, or indeed get paid, which I have done that. And again, in terms of the particular property that you're doing, especially with HMOs, some of those properties can afford you the ability to get a cash flow valuation rather than a bricks and mortar valuation, depending on the size of it, and depending on, well, particularly post-COVID, it's harder to get that in terms of financing, but it's not impossible.
Okay, would you like to give us examples of the numbers of a couple of the deals that you've done? Right, now it's saying I've got too many people unmuted and nobody's unmuted on here.
See from the floor plan,
right.
The bathroom was huge, so and it had 2 reception rooms downstairs, so it lent itself to basically turning the upstairs into, taking that large bathroom and turning that into a bedroom and cutting out a small bathroom upstairs, and so that particular property, I think we paid 61 for it. I think we spent around about, I think we spent around about 30 on it, so we're probably 90 or so all in. When I say 30, that's refurb and fees and solicitors and all that jazz. And then I think memory serves, it valued at something like 135, so we pulled 100 out, so it paid 9 grand. It was that kind of, those were the kind of figures. And that's what I was saying before, it was about buying at a good price. 61 was a good price. It was about buying something that you could add value to, which certainly we could in that scenario. And then, just knowing your numbers and, getting the project finished and having the, getting the end value at the end of the day, and the finance to support. And as you said, for me, it's not so much no money down as more like no money left in. So in that particular project, I would have put down a deposit on the 61. I would have paid the 30 grand of costs, etc., and ultimately pulled money back out. But I have done another one where I did it actually through a delayed completion. So in that regard, that had not very much money put into it, and pretty much all of the money pulled out of it at the back end. And again, that kind of opportunity, those kind of opportunities, they do exist, and it's just knowing recognising when you might be able to do that, and then and knowing the strategy, if you like, or the plan of attack, as it were, to be able to agree that with the vendor.
Okay, now I know when I was buying properties, I wasn't specifically looking for HMOs like you are. I was just looking for deals, and I was doing no money down, totally, same day refinance. And going back then, it seemed to be a lot easier. It only took 2 or 3 to 4 weeks to get a mortgage through application. And I bought, starting with 110 grand, I bought 52 properties in 48 weeks. Okay. Now, I'm expanding on this a little bit because Dave's Bird's question was, how much cash did you start with as a pot? Because there's 2 different strategies. There's the no money down, which is in the slightly higher value areas using discount that we got from marketing direct to vendors for the deposits. And then there's the no money left in, mixed with delayed completions to a certain degree that Stuart's doing in a slightly cheaper area. So if you had like a 20 grand pot, a 50 grand pot, a £500,000 pot, different numbers, would it be possible to get 30 properties in a year?
I think it's where there's a will, there's a way. and it's a function of, I would say it's a function of how much time you've got, how much capital you've got, and then your own education and a few other things around mindset that you need to apply. But I'm a great believer in anything is possible if you mix together those things in the right order, as it were.
Okay, so what would you say is the biggest restriction? The actual cash flow or the actual capital pot that you've got? Because each time you buy one, you need to invest 60 or 70 grand, another 20 or 30 for the refurb, or you can get the buy refinance, bridge refinance model, where you only need to put 25% down. So yeah, with 50 grand, is it realistic to be able to do 10 in a year, or do you need a bit more than that?
I would take it back a step and say I would look at it from the point of view of what vision do I have in terms of the amount of cash flow that I want to achieve, and I'd then look at how much time and recent money that I'd got, and I would then be looking to pick the relevant strategy that would support where I want to get to. So there are clearly several strategies. So for example, if you take HMOs, you can do HMOs on a rent-to-rent basis, you can do HMOs on a purchase basis. I would say take it back a step before that and look at, as I said, your vision, your time, your pot, etc. If you're looking to do if you've got, let's say, 50 grand and you want to pursue a buy strategy, then I think typically, if you're talking about, again, it depends what area you're in, but if you talk north, for example, then yeah, it's quite conceivable to put a deposit down, get your refurbishment done, and then recycle your cash. And that process, in fairness, does take, I would say, between 3 to 5 months to be able to go through. You've got to find the property, you've got to get your finance organised, solicitors, and then you've got your refurb to do, and then you've got the refinance to pull out at the back end. So my experience, I mean, I'm sure people do it a lot quicker than I do, but my experience has been it's in that region. Three if everything goes really quick and you've not got too big a refurb, or 5 if it's a bit longer. So
yeah,
if you've got
I kind of
50 grand.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
if you've got 50 grand, I think, to play with, then you know, you could adopt a buy strategy with a no money left in at the end. But if you can do delayed completions, things like that as well, that you can accelerate things, and you can do things through rent to rent as well and accelerate things. So I think for me it's about taking that bigger step back and understanding what you want to achieve, how much money and time you've got, and then thinking about the most appropriate strategy. And also, I think as well, the strategy that you feel most comfortable with. So, for example, in that arena, it was just my makeup that I felt more comfortable with owning rather than rent to rent. Rent to rent you can probably do a lot faster, but I wanted to own. So, you know, I think there's an element of that as well.
Yeah, there's a little bit more profit in owning because you're not paying landlords a premium. But what I teach on our training days and stuff for my 4-day course is, and for our mentoring program, I say to people, look, it's totally realistic to be able to buy 10 properties a year, giving you around £700 per month per property. Put that over a 3-year period. You'll end up with around 20, 23, 22 properties and a cash flow of around £20,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, because, you know, from my perspective, you know, take COVID out of the equation, you know, would have easily done 10 this year. And, you know, a lot of work and effort and energy goes into that. And in fairness, you know, I've had access to finance, but again, where there's a will, there's a way. You can joint venture with people, you can do all sorts of things. So yeah, I would agree with you, it's totally possible.
Okay, so Krasimir, who is one of our mentees, said how to find charity organisations for guaranteed rent. Krasimir, are you in a position that you bought your first property and you're starting to need to find a tenant? Because if you're not, then in this position that you're in at the moment, you should be concentrating your effort and your time on finding a deal and, you know, getting your money back out and, you know, getting some income and worrying about how you're going to rent it out at a later date. I don't think Stuart actually does any guaranteed rent. Actually, you're not charity, so, but you do rent out some of the properties to other landlords, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a mixture. To be fair, I do actually have. We have 2 properties currently that are in the social housing arena, and to answer Krasimir's question there, that's been a lot of building relationships. You know, it's been Googling, it's been contacts, it's been building relationships, and that's something that I personally enjoy, that particular market, in the sense that you might not get as much rent as you would if you just let your HMO individually. But for me personally, I'm not looking to do this as a job, so to speak. It's more of an investment approach. So I don't mind taking a bit of a lesser return because it's guaranteed. So I've just, in fact, when you were asking me about the lockdown, one of the things that I did in the lockdown was I've been cultivating a relationship in the first 3 months prior to lockdown. And then in lockdown, we managed to conclude that relationship, and they have one of our properties that went live with them about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and that's a nice, you know, it's a good deal in the sense of that particular property was bought well, etc. It has a bit of capital tied up in it, but not much, and it now has a guaranteed rent for as an absolute minimum 3 years, and 5 years for if all goes well, which I see no reason why it wouldn't.
Okay, Murray said, what areas do you work in and how did you choose the area?
So I'm in the north, and how I chose the area, to be honest with you, I'd like to say that it was ultra scientific, but honestly speaking, it wasn't totally scientific. But I'll tell you what I did do. I picked a few cities that I'd heard of, or that I'd maybe been to. I had a look on Rightmove to understand to get a first stab at what the property prices were, so that I could then get a sense of how much capital would I need to put into some of these deals before I got it back out. And that was literally, I did that over a weekend and then narrowed it down. But that was the first step, really, was just to say, okay, let's find a particular area where it feels like the prices might be okay. And then after that, then it's about doing, your own due diligence on that particular area, and then settling on one. And to be quite honest with you, with all of these things, you can do it to death, and you can put in and never get anywhere, and equally you can rush into it too quickly. And at the end of the day, I think I picked a city that the numbers look like they work for, and it's proven profitable so far.
Cool. Right, so Murray also says, are all the HMOs in a similar area and grouped together?
The answer to that is yes, but not for any, not for the reason you might think. Only that, going on from that area question, the critical thing to find out is about the area and which particular postcodes work, and in fact, even which streets work. So, in the city that I'm in, there are 3 postcodes that work, but there's primarily one postcode that is I would say perhaps the one to focus in on. So I've got of the 6 that I've got the first 2 were in let's say a lesser postcode, if I want to say it like that. It was in the top 3 postcodes, but not the top. And then the last 4 are in the top postcode, and the 2 that I'm buying shortly will be in that top postcode as well. But that comes with, I live a long way, well, I say a long ways. I live a couple of hours, an hour and a half from the city that I invest in, and I frankly had no idea about postcodes or streets or anything like that, other than I had to start and do my homework and start talking to people. So I would say, to get started with that, you pick an area that feels comfortable for you, feels like the numbers might work, and then you start doing your own a bit deeper dive and investigation.
I tend to get my clients to go out and spend a week in each of 4 towns and see which one they get a feel for, which one they feel more comfortable in, and it does. You do get different feelings for different places, and some people feel comfortable in certain areas and don't feel places in the other. Quite a lot of people may have lived somewhere previously and decide to go to that area rather than the area that they are, because it doesn't work for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, Glenn. I think, if I had my time over again and I was starting from scratch, I think, I would have done that actually. I would have maybe looked at a couple of areas, but at the time when I started that, no one gave me that guidance, and I simply just went, okay, I've heard of this place, I've been there once before, right, these numbers look like they're going to work, off we go. And to be fair, it's been fine.
So what you're basically saying, Stuart, is that if you could do it all again, you'd have come to me for mentoring right at the beginning.
Well, it's been an interesting journey, and what I would say on that point, absolutely, there's a lot of people that, you know, mentor and train and all that good stuff. And I started out my journey with somebody else, which actually was spot on for me in terms of where I was at that particular point. But what attracted me to yourself was, to use that phrase, a more sophisticated approach to how you can navigate through the particular purchase that you're trying to do, so that you can limit the amount of capital you've either put in or got tied up at the end of the exercise. And so, yeah, absolutely, you know, that's been just, you know, invaluable from my point of view. And you're right, that would have been good guidance to have at the get-go about, you know, looking and feeling out different areas. At the same time, though, on that point, it's just getting the balance, because I see some people that will just kind of forever be doing analysis by, you know, paralysis by analysis,
yeah.
You know, and not actually making some action.
What I actually call that, Stuart, is getting ready to get ready. And that's a side of the training that I actually love, because I do like, you know, understanding my clients individually, even in a group situation, and then messing with the head and pressing the right buttons to, you know, get them to move in the right direction for themselves, obviously. Yeah. But some people take more, you know, different ways to motivate them individually, and it's mad, because I can tell a group of people, on average, 1 in every 30 of my clients becomes a millionaire. Okay, so yeah. Why does that one person become a millionaire, where, you know, 29 of them don't? Admittedly, 20 of them kind of get to financial freedom, and then they get this dose of can't be arsed'itis, because they're comfortable. You know, I believe with you, your psychology is you'll just keep plodding along steadily until you know, go beyond millionaire status. And for anyone who actually gets to millionaire, it's not, it's okay, I'd much rather be a millionaire than somebody with 50p in the bank, but you don't really start getting to a decent lifestyle till you get past the 15-20 million bracket, which maybe I'm putting people off becoming a millionaire, but you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and you know, I think one of the things that I enjoy as well a lot is sitting down with people and understanding, you know, what their vision is, and as we were talking about before, what strategies, where they want to get to, how much time, money have they got, and what strategies, etc., could work for them. And there's always a route. And one of the things that you said before, and I totally agree with this, is, you know, where do you want to get to? Is kind of the next level. And you know, for me as an individual, you know, I mean, I used to earn a lot more in corporate world than I currently earn, and my next level is basically to get back to what I was earning in corporate world, and then when I get to that level, it will be to go, you know, beyond that. But my why is not necessarily, you know, to be a 15-20 million. Have 15-20 million in the bank. Mine is more about having the freedom to choose what I do when I do it, as it were, or, you know, what I want to do when I want to do it, kind of thing, and not be beholden to others.
Not have to decide whether or not you can and want to go to your American little event that you went to.
Totally, absolutely. That, honestly, the feeling of being able to not have to put a holiday request form in and be able to fly off to see the Super Bowl earlier this year, pre-COVID. Thank God I went after all that. Well done, Claire, for twisting me on to make sure I did do that. But yeah, it's just great to be able to do that, and that's something that, you know, I think time is more valuable than money. You know, time freedom and being time rich, I think it's certainly my goal. And don't take me wrong, and you know, you have to put in a lot of work. And I was saying to my wife today, I actually work harder now than I was doing perhaps in corporate world, it's probably even more stressful in some ways. And that's not to put people off, but the way I look at it is that's a short-term investment of time, effort and energy for a long-term, gain.
Yeah, the saying is...
to put that in.
Yeah, the saying is that not many people are prepared to put the time and effort in now in order, to live a lifestyle that nobody else can live once they get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the, when you talk about mindset, I've had to educate myself a lot over a lot more than the last 2 years, over a lot of years. And quite frankly, probably 5, 10, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I probably couldn't have even done what I'm doing now, because it does take you've got to be able to manage your mind and know how to do that, because, there's no doubt about it, it's a roller coaster. And one of the things that I've been trying to learn is to stay more even, so when good news happens, good. And when bad news happens, okay, we just got to work through it.
Yeah, removing the emotion from the business.
It's not easy, but you need to be able to keep. That's something that I think, when you talk about, or I would talk about with an individual, seeing the future, understanding the future, that's so important. Get your vision down, and then you've really got to educate yourself technically, and then you've got to educate yourself about yourself and how to manage your mind and how to, if you're a kind of person that procrastinates, how do you break that? If you're a kind of person that worries about things, how do you break that? If you're going to things too quickly, how do you break that?
Exactly, and that's why on our 4-day training we spend probably a third of the first day on the mindset stuff and understanding individuals. I listen to people's language patterns, and I can tell whether or not their full intention is actually to do what they're going to do, or whether they're hiding behind a feel good, this is what I'm saying, I'm talking a good story. And I also know how to press different people's buttons by basically making them accountable. So for instance, somebody who didn't like going and visiting estate agents, so just wasn't, at the next meeting that we had, they had to come and do a report on their day and the estate agents they visited on that day, which got them over that barrier. So, what one person thinks is, well, why would anyone be bothered about going in to see estate agents, isn't somebody else's challenge. And there are several books that you can read, but it is very much an individual thing. Why are some people successful and some people aren't? It is very much about the determination and mindset of that people have, but it doesn't have to be stuck and fixed in the same place as always. And sometimes just knowing that there's someone there to hold your hand, and that someone's saying, yeah, look, this is okay, this strategy's okay, these numbers work, everything's fine, don't worry about it, that makes all the difference.
I totally agree, and a point you made there that I absolutely subscribe to is, no matter where you are on life's journey, and you look at people and you think, oh God, how do they do that? And oh, I can't do that. Oh, and all this thing. The bottom line fact is, you absolutely can. It's just a matter of educating yourself, and all of these things can be learned. And we all have our strengths, and we all have opportunities for improvement. But all of those things can be learned, and and that's, I think, the very empowering thing. So no matter where you are on your journey, you can absolutely educate yourself technically, you can absolutely understand yourself and get help and support to educate yourself around mindset. You absolutely can make that happen, no doubt about it. It's a learned thing.
Yeah, and I think Paul Charles is concurring. He says, funny enough, it was a holiday request that moved me out of the corporate world. Pretty much been on holiday ever since. Which is, I love that statement. So thank you for that, Paul. And then Catherine said, do you have any advice on how to develop the right mindset? I think, Catherine, I watch people doing rent to rent, for instance, just as a breakdown. And some people struggle to get over the different barriers, different hurdles that they have challenges with. Whether it's making appointments, putting the offering in the right way that gets accepted. Sometimes people self-sabotage, some people just don't do it because they're scared. There's the fear side of stuff. Everyone is different and everything does things in different ways. On average, it takes around 3 months for somebody to find their first rent-to-rent deal. But if somebody started with experience, and how long is it going to take them to get their first rent-to-rent deal? Probably in 1 month. It's not just a funnel thing. I see people repeatedly taking 3 months to get their first deal, and then by the time 6 months has gone, they've got £3 grand, £2.5 grand a month income. But it always takes just over a year. It's normally about 14 months before the people that are persistent end up with a 10 grand a month income. So mindset stuff is such an important factor in any type of business.
What I would say as well, Ben, on that, the lady's question is, if you take some pause for thought and you kind of self-reflect, you will know deep down some of the areas that challenge you more specifically. We all have them, and then I would be looking to just simply ask other people for their recommendations on books to read, or joining some mentorship group, or reaching out to somebody that's already done the journey that you are seeking to do, and chatting around those things all help.
Yeah, for definite. I mean, going back to the mindset stuff and everyone being different, I'll never forget I was at an event. I'd been teaching property investment for probably 4 or 5 years by that time, and I was struggling to understand why some people were successful and some people just didn't get going. And they asked a question and asked you to write down what your limiting beliefs were. And I was like, well, what's one of them? And then they explained to me what limiting beliefs were, and I thought, oh, what, people have these? But for me, that was a defining moment, because I understood that that's what the problem was with a lot of my customers and a lot of my clients, is they had these limiting beliefs that then made it easier, once I understood that bit of it, to move them forward. And it did come as a bit of a, oh, people have them. But yeah, there we go. Okay, Ali says, how do you source your properties? And just before you answer that one, we are pretty much out of questions at the moment, so if anyone has got any more questions they want to ask, please feel free to type away, and we've got a few more minutes left to answer them for you.
For sourcing, I genuinely tend to do that, have done that pretty much myself. I started out with Rightmove and estate agents, and then over time what I found is, as you get to know people in the area and you start to interact with HMO managers or builders, local authorities, it's funny how people will talk to you and say, oh, I know such and such has got a deal or is thinking about selling the house, and so I think the more initially, no more difficult than just looking on Rightmove for me, and then as I got more into it, your network kind of grows, and I find that actually people come to me because they'll know that I'm in the area and they'll know that I'm looking for buying properties. So I think that naturally comes. I think it's perhaps easier, let's say, in the northern area, more Midlands and South. You're probably talking more direct-to-vendor activity than you are in the north.
I was talking to somebody today who's based in Coventry, an estate agent, one of my mentees, who was having a conversation with, and basically she was looking at taking on property, buying it fairly cheap, refinancing it, taking a bit of cash out, but leaving 75 odd grand in, being 25% of the 350 purchase price, and it was renting out for £80 a room a week times 5. And I'm like, what? Yeah, because that's pretty much what you get for rooms in an area where the houses are 60 grand.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. It's pretty standard that, that rooms are,
80.
That en suite probably 75, 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Whether you're in North or whether you're in the Midlands.
Yeah, and there's a few areas that have crept up to 90. It's all about supply and demand, and I think that the investors that have gone down the HMO route have kept the supply fairly constant. So it hasn't forced the prices up. There are a few areas in the country where I've sent my mentees because the room rents are more like the 9,500 for rooms, and I don't mean in London, still fairly cheap area, because of what's going on in the area and the supply and demand.
Yeah.
So right. So Dave says, what is your average purchase price?
Great question. I would say, that's a really difficult question because let's say I'll give you a range of let's say around 20 grand a room, that kind of concept.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's good to base it on a price per room, because that puts things into reality when people come to me and go, Glenn, I found this great 15-bed property, and we look at it, and actually by buying 15, like 3 properties with 5 rooms each, they're paying less for that than buying a 15-room HMO. So running costs might be slightly cheaper, but that's about it. So
I think you're probably talking in the region of 20 to 25 if you're talking Midlands to North. I don't know for South, obviously going to be a lot more, but that's that kind of ballpark, I would say.
Okay, Catherine says, how do you go about finding a partner / mentor? I feel they'll be too busy to help me and I don't like to ask.
Well, there you go, straight away. You don't like to. You just need to reach out and be polite. And everybody starts somewhere. And one of the things I appreciate about the property industry is, at least from my experience, everybody is very helpful. At least from what I've seen, and people are only too happy to help.
Yeah, you've got the benefit, like on our programme, of having the WhatsApp group with over 100 investors that are lots of different levels, several millionaire clients in there, and there's a couple of hundred communications a day some days, and I just see everyone helping each other. When someone's got a question, there's 3 or 4 people that normally answer it.
Yeah, it's brilliant actually, and that is so helpful and empowering. And I give you just a for instance on that. I was having a particular challenge in getting some insurance around the social housing that we talked about the other day. And I put a post on there and reached out to see if anybody could help. And one of the mentees was, there's a lot more experience than I am, and was kind enough to message me privately and point me in the right direction. And I was speaking to him the other night and saying thank you very much, because that has helped, and I managed to get that breakthrough. So honestly, people have been more than happy. People are more than happy to help.
Yeah, and look, Catherine, yours was also the how to develop the right mindset, and then the question, I can hear your shyness, feel your shyness within the 2 questions that you've asked. ask. No one's going to bite you. Worst they'll say is, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm a bit busy right now, I can't help." Or there are some people like myself who you actually pay to be mentored, but are available at certain times for specifically asking questions. So every week on our weekly webinar, I answer questions for all my mentees to do with all the property deals they're doing, or stuff to do with getting into the right mindset for doing stuff.
If Catherine wants to reach out to me, if you email Glenn, he'll be I'm sure he'll be happy to give you my phone number and email address. So if you want to pick up the phone to somebody to chat, then by all means give me a call.
Okay, so look, we've suddenly had quite a lot of the questions. Paul says, "Do you feel that some people are born without limiting beliefs?" I think it might not necessarily be about how people are born. I think it's about the parenting that they get and how they're brought up. My mum, when I wanted to buy a bike that was 20 quid, and she said that my nan would give me £5 towards Christmas, and that she'd give us £5, or mum and dad give me £5 towards Christmas. And I'm like, "Well, where's the other tenner coming from?" She said, "I don't know. Where is the other tenner coming from? You work it out yourself." And many years I used to do little shows and have people round, and I'd do like puppet shows. And it's only more recently that my mum said, "Yeah, do you know what? The amount of money that you earned from doing that wasn't even enough to pay for the biscuits and the orange juice I used to give away." But she never ever let on about that. So I think it's a lot to do with parenting.
I agree with that. I think it's a lot of it is learned as you go on your own journey. But that's the great thing. You can relearn and reprogram, and absolutely you can do that. I see it with people I work with. I've seen it so many times. That's how you grow and develop. So totally doable.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, Stuart. Are we now in a sufficient place outside of the lockdown COVID situation where we can actually start our goal of buying 100 properties in 100 weeks?
Yes.
Cool. Right. So here's the concept. We're looking for people who want us to buy properties for them. We are putting together 100 properties that are all HMOs in within 2 specific areas. We have got a New Zealand hedge fund who's paying us a return, which means that properties that we're buying for 80 to 120, 130 grand will be sold all at a similar price based on 8% yield or rent return. So I think that works out somewhere around the 200 grand. So we're looking at doing that over 100 weeks. It will be essential, one, that you are prepared to sell them, because we've got to put a batch of 100 together, and that you are prepared to give Stuart and I half of the rent income and also half of the profit. We will be filming it, and it will be televised, and the areas will be revealed that we're doing it in. 1, to the people that we're doing it with, which is no problem, but 2, when it goes and airs on television. It will certainly be on our YouTube channels, but we believe Channel 4 is actually interested in the actual programme, and I know when that releases, worst case scenario, and for some reason the hedge fund drops out, or because things happen, the prices in that area will go up quite considerably because of the number of investors that will flood there, because of the numbers and figures that we will be giving out on this TV programme. So if anybody's interested, drop me an email, glenn@glenarmstrong.com, not the info one. Please drop it to glenn@glenarmstrong.com. Stuart and I will have a overview ready for you beginning of next week, and we can be up and running, and I believe that we've got a few people already lined up that want us to buy properties. I think we've got 16 people, so we're going to have to start the timer running over the next few weeks. Are we ready?
Born ready.
There we go. All right. Thank you very much, Stuart, for joining us this evening and sharing your knowledge with everybody on here. It's much appreciated.
No, thank you, Tony. It's always a pleasure.
As I said, if you are interested in us buying HMOs in your name for you, but having a JV arrangement sitting in the background, drop me an email and I'll share with you the full details. Tomorrow, do you know, I can't remember who's on tomorrow night. Oh yeah, I think we have our Section 24 expert on tomorrow night. So if anybody has got any challenges with that, he's going to be here to answer your questions to a certain degree, setting stuff up in trust, all that sort of stuff. So I'll be chatting to him tomorrow, and Energy will be doing the Friday estate agent one. So thank you for joining us. Take care, have a great evening, make sure you stay safe, please don't get complacent, and I look forward to talking to you all again tomorrow night. Thanks, Stuart.
Cheers.